It's October 18, 2025, and this is season 4, episode 30 of Two Guys on Politics, being broadcast on the U.S. Arab Radio Network on WNZK AM 690 radio. We're grateful for them running us. Usually they do it on Thursdays in the morning and evening on 690 AM in Detroit. And also we're broadcast on twoguysonpolitics.com, online on YouTube. Today's podcast, we're going to look at Trump's war against Venezuela, an update on Ukraine and Tomahawk missiles. This is the war that never ends. Trump pardons George Santos, the No King's Day protests and the anti-ICE protests that are taking place today, which is Saturday, October 18th. And Governor Pritzker wins $1.5 million in Las Vegas. Wow. At least he won something. The rest of Illinois doesn't win much. And then, of course, we got the local politics, the collapse of or I don't know, collapse, but the failure of the Illinois Republican Party to exert its voice in Illinois. We're going to take a quick break and then we'll come right back right after these messages. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics. And I'm happy to be associated with my partner, a man who has an answer for everything, Mr. Ray Hanania.
I'm proud to be a co-host with Bill Lipinski, the former congressman, former alderman, and you're not the Democratic Committeeman any longer. You're
God,
former Democratic Committeeman of the
a
23rd.
long time.
Well, 23rd Ward was one of the most powerful wards in the city of Chicago when it came out to voter turnout. That
Yes.
was the strength, right?
Well, we produced a lot of Democratic votes. There was no question about it. But we probably produced the second greatest number in the city for a number of years to the mighty 13th Ward of Speaker Madigan's.
Right, yeah, the 13th Ward, 23rd Ward. You guys would get 90% of the voters to actually go out and vote. And if I recall correctly, I think in one of Harold Washington's elections, he got the fewest votes ever of any ward in the 23rd Ward. And some people might say, oh, that's because he was black. But no, it wasn't because he was black. He was kind of an outsider from Democratic politics in the Southwest side, never come out there, never visited. So it was natural that your turnout was pretty strong.
Yes, it was.
Anyway, we do have a lot of topics today, some interesting ones. We have the Trump's war on Venezuela. We're going to talk about the No King's Day and the war, what I call the war on law enforcement. I think it's wrong what's happening, although I'm upset with Speaker Johnson denouncing the protesters as pro-Hamas. I don't get him. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Ukraine in this segment one. This war on Venezuela, another attack against another ship, Bill. To me, it's unheard of that we just blow up a ship or we raid a ship of a foreign country without presenting any evidence of facts. We just say, oh, they're transporting drugs. They don't show the drugs. They don't show their proof. They just do it, and that's it. And nobody has the right to get facts. What's he doing with Venezuela?
I don't know. It seems like he's trying to egg them into a war. I haven't heard of Venezuela thinking about attacking us in any way, shape, or form. But he's blowing up these boats that come from Venezuela. We have no idea really what's on these boats, what are not on these boats. Who else but Trump would do something like this? And now I understand he's talking about possibly bombing some drug cartel sites in Venezuela. Oh, yeah. I don't know.
We do, yeah.
He has a lot of fans, and there's a number of things he does that I support. But I'll tell you, sometimes he can go so far off the reservation. It's just unbelievable.
Well, listen, Venezuela has had problems.
Yes,
Obviously, as we know, they're political problems, but they're domestic problems. We can support one side or the other, but the level of interference in another country's politics in such an informal way is a little frightening because there's no parameters, legal parameters for any of this. Last year, I guess, what was her name? The candidate, Maria Corina Machado. She
Yes.
was the leader of Venezuela's opposition, and she was forced into hiding by the president, Maduro, who apparently he's a dictator. And some of his policies I like, some of them I don't like, but a lot of people don't like him because he doesn't want to let go of power. And it's not a democracy. And for some reason, and by the way, Machado was nominated for and won the Nobel Peace Prize, which pretty much upset Trump until Machado praised Trump for his support of her efforts to unseat Maduro. And he kind of calmed down over the Nobel Peace Prize because, he was lobbying for it. Every opportunity he had, he was telling people he deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. All his paid cabinet members were instructed to tell people that he deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. It was really just the most outrageous thing I'd ever seen in politics. But it's kind of a mess there, and I am worried that they are going to start a war in Venezuela. This is in our hemisphere. Why would he do that? Why would he risk?
The Monroe Doctrine. He wants to make sure that no other country outside of America interferes in South America or Central America. We are the only ones that have the power, the authority, the direction from the Almighty to take care of things in South America and Central America, according to Trump.
Yeah, it's been 70 years since all the trouble started in Cuba, and that's calmed down a little bit. Now, after Castro passed away, his successor is less combative towards us. I mean, but that conflict brought us to the brink of nuclear war when Kennedy
Absolutely.
was
Yep.
president. Maduro and Venezuela are much more advanced than Cuba was back in the 60s when that happened. So there is a chance like things could get worse. I mean, I just can't imagine us invading Venezuela.
No, I
But it
can't
looks
imagine
like
us.
Trump is trying to start that fight. I mean, whatever we can't imagine is a possibility with Trump.
Right.
That's my new logic with him.
Yeah, well, he hasn't got enough to do with the big demonstrations, the anti-King days in our country, and getting involved in the situation in the Ukraine, in Russia, in Gaza, in the Palestinians, and Israel. What else has he got on his plate? Oh, he's got the government shutdown, and then he's letting people out of jail who are his supporters. He thinks we're wrongly convicted.
And
I
these
mean,
are all the things we're going to be talking about today. It's like
are we
unbelievable,
gonna
right?
talk about the 20 million that he's given to Argentina if the one guy wins the election?
Oh my gosh. That's there's too much going on. This listen, he's authorized the CIA to enter Venezuela. Now, normally when
Yes,
the CIA enters a country, it's secret.
right.
It's quiet, it's
Not that
secret.
it's secret with Trump.
They do regime change. They take out and arrest or kill a government leader. We don't learn about it until 30 or 40 years. Trump doesn't care. He just tells you before it happens. He's sending the CIA into Venezuela to take out Maduro
Right.
and to change things. That to me is a little bit dangerous. And this past week, I think our bombings, we used B-52 bombers that circled over these boats and dropped five. We hit like five. We struck the boats with five missiles, and we killed 27 people in the attack. We don't know who those people are that were.
Or they must have been drug runners.
They
They
must
have
have
to
been.
be. Yeah.
That's what Trump says. But
Yes.
that's a dangerous policy to do it that way, isn't it? Don't you go before the United Nations at least and say, "Hey, here's our proof," and then you say if you don't stop, We're going to take action. He doesn't care. He just does it. Proof or
Well,
not.
at least he could have gone before the American people and told us what was going on over there. I mean, he didn't even do that. I'm sure the networks would have been happy to give him time to say what we're doing down there. Uh, he doesn't bother. No, he doesn't have time for that. He's on to something else. He's meeting with his friend Putin again in 2 weeks. He wants to visit Budapest. I guess he's never been to Budapest, so him and Putin are going to meet in Budapest.
Wow. Yeah, it's strange. And then of course part of the reason he gets away with all this, in a way he gets away with it, is because there's so much going on
Right.
involving him. There's this protest called No King's Day, which I assume is, kind of a left-wing play on the play Hamilton. I don't know if you saw that, which was a slam against our alleged tyranny of our president at the time, Trump. I know Hamilton. Trump took great offense to that play. Have you seen the play
No, I
Hamilton?
have not. Have you seen it?
No, I saw part of it, but I just don't like the obvious political partisanship that goes into theater sometimes or creative writing. And it's intended like it just seems like it corrupts entertainment. When
Yeah.
entertainment becomes a political weapon, it bothers me. And it would be nice if it were balanced a little bit, but it's very creative. I've heard one of the songs I thought was really good, where the king is singing about how much he loves us so much that he'll kill us, in the play, The King of England. But anyway, it's this No King's Day. It kind of was a play on that Trump is no king and he can't just dictate whatever he wants. And then I heard Speaker Johnson responding to the No King's Day, calling them all terrorists. All the people that are protest. These are Americans. He's calling terrorists, which to me is like, I don't know, isn't it crossing the line when you attack American people, even if you disagree with them?
Are there any lines left, Ray?
No,
That's one of the
that's
problems.
true.
I really
No.
don't know if there's any lines left.
Yeah, no, no, there's not. Johnson was denouncing all these protesters as being pro-Hamas. He's on TV. This guy will just say anything. Speaker Johnson, who I believe brought the capital and government to a standstill. I believe it's the Republicans that are preventing government from operating and shutting down, that caused the government to shut down. They just say whatever they want. They blame everybody. Some of the media likes them, so they just carry their message. Some of the media doesn't like them, so they attack their message. It's just disturbing to me. But this No King's Day is also focused on the ICE crackdowns and Homeland Security crackdowns on illegal aliens. And in a way, I'm kind of divided by all this because, as you know, I'm a big supporter, and as you are, of policing and law enforcement.
Absolutely.
And there's a way to do things, and we're not doing anything the right way anymore. We just do things. We
We do things the Trump way.
The Trump way. Wow. It could
Absolutely.
be the
That's the way
title
we,
of a book.
one thing about this crackdown on illegal aliens, there is, you know, a lot of people are complaining about the fact that people are being rounded up who have not committed any kind of crime.
Right.
Okay. But they are here illegally.
Right.
Okay. So if you're here illegally, according to the laws of this country, you should be deported.
Right.
About 30% of the people that ICE is picking up they have not committed any crimes, but they
Right.
came here illegally.
Right.
They have no paper whatsoever. So they should be deported. I don't have any problem with that. But a lot of people in this country do have a problem with it. Now, you and I have a program that we would like to see implemented where anybody that's been here for 5 years is going to get amnesty, put on a road to becoming an American citizen. If you've been here less than 5 years, You better go back right now because if you don't, we're going to catch you and we're never going to leave you back in. Now that sounds like a Trump commercial, but I happen to agree with that. But if you've been here for 5 years, you haven't committed any crime, you've become a productive member of society.
So,
Let them stay here. I want to put one thing in here that we didn't say we were going to go. I read in the Wall Street Journal Thursday or Friday that Trump is having whatever entity handles immigration in this country, he, he's looking at making sure that the new immigration policy, when it comes out, favors what people? What do you believe? Who do you think he wants to see more of getting into this country?
yeah, yeah,
Caucasians,
yes,
believe
yeah.
it or not. Can you believe that?
Now, to me, it's the problem. On the one hand, I agree with part of what Trump is trying to do, and I agree with part of what the protesters are doing, but they're both extreme.
Absolutely.
Trump is just saying arrest them all, and maybe 70, I don't know how many of those people are really illegal or criminals. It seems like they are stereotyping. They're profiling Mexicans. If you're a Mexican, they grab you and arrest you and charge you. And then maybe you're illegal, maybe you're not illegal. But it causes a conflict that ends up resulting in charges being filed against the people who are not illegal because they were being improperly arrested. On the other hand, the protesters, for whatever reason, they are really going aggressively to stop the law enforcement from these crackdowns. And it's not because they're violating the law by just grabbing everybody. It's because they're targeting illegal aliens.
Right.
They want to protect illegal aliens. Both sides are doing things for the wrong reasons. And the rest of us Americans were silent and in shock and awe at what's happening around us. And there's no leadership to like stop this. It's just getting worse.
Well, I'm
So,
sure that there'll be counter demonstrations today against the people who are supporting No King's Day. I'm just hope and pray that it doesn't turn violent. But when you get so many people out demonstrating in the street, which they have a perfect right to do, it's a free country. They have a right to demonstrate. They don't have a right, though, to create violence. And I just find it hard to believe that that is not going to happen when you have so many people. And the police are going to be overwhelmed
yes.
because of all the demonstrators on both sides.
And something's going to happen bad.
Sure.
Whenever things are done without outside of the law on both sides, everybody skirts the law, they cut corners, they do things improperly, they rush to do things. Somebody's going to get hurt, whether it's law enforcement or whether it's protesters, and it's going to aggravate everything instead of there's no effort to resolve the problem. The whole effort and energy is to augment and exaggerate the problem. The protesters want this problem to get worse. Trump wants this problem to get worse because they're each looking at it from their own side. And to me, that's so selfish. It bothers me. And yeah, I expect something is going to be bad later tonight, this weekend, Sunday. All we're going to hear are about people that were hurt, law enforcement that were hurt, maybe protesters that were hurt, maybe, and it's going to make this country look terrible. I believe we are headed towards civil war, and these are the early signs. They by themselves they don't look like the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln at the Ford Theater, but in a way, that's what we're leading up to. That moment when both sides really start attacking each other in a formal and forceful way, and that is disconcerting to me.
Well, you talk about Abraham Lincoln. I mean, you know, a inch closer to Trump's head, it would have killed him.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you don't think that would have incited a lot of violence in this country at the time?
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
Certainly would have, no question about it. And I'm surprised that there wasn't more violence when Charlie Kirk was assassinated also. It's just, to me, the very conservative MAGA people do a lot of talking in very outlandish things that they have to say, calling the other side
Like,
communists,
like
leftists,
Speaker Johnson.
socialists,
Yeah.
terrorists, okay? But most of the violence seems to me comes from the left on the right, which is strange to me.
Yeah.
You would think that the people who were talking, with the roughest language, the most violent language, would be the ones that would be getting attacked, but they're the ones that seem to be doing the attacking. Maybe it's me, but that's the way it seems to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, one of the problems that always happens is when somebody does something wrong, the people who feel that they have been wronged respond with something worse.
Right.
So the government, in my opinion, is exceeding its authority and doing this in the wrong way. Yes, we should arrest illegal aliens, but there's a judicial process we should follow that Trump doesn't want to follow. And you grab people, and instead of doing it the right way, you do it the wrong way. And the wrong way creates an environment where the people being abused and wronged in a way respond, and they look even worse. So I think that's what you're seeing. The left responding to the right, these provocations from the right, even though the left is guilty of defending these illegal aliens, they're responding in a way that looks even worse than what the ICE agents and what the government are doing. So it's a combination of the two sides, and it just makes things worse. Like I said, I'm worried for this country because instead of seeing a path towards resolution, we're seeing a path towards, continued conflict, expanding. It's not, it's not reducing.
No, it
It's
is not.
expanding. We're seeing things all over the world that Trump and the US government are involved in that are wrong, provoking others to do wrong in response. When you do wrong, someone responds to you in a wrong way also. And that causes a very deep problem, I think. Which may bring us to maybe we in segment one we could talk about George Santos, right?
Oh, yes.
George Santos is a guy who did wrong, who did wrong, and who was sent to prison. I think but he served less than 3 months on his fraud conviction, right, in a federal prison.
Yeah, but a
And
lot of that time was spent in solitary confinement. That's why, and besides, he was a Republican and a good Republican. So that's why Trump has pardoned him.
so he pardons his buddies.
Right.
He doesn't pardon people for the right reasons. That's another problem, isn't it? That I mean, every president has the right to pardon people, and I'm sure, Clinton did that. He pardoned some of his buddies. They all do it, I guess. So it's unfair to hold Trump to a higher standard. But I mean, George Santos, I, I don't know why you would pardon him. There are so many other people that you might want to consider. He was sentenced to
7 years.
yeah, 7 years, and I think he served only 3 months out of the 7 years. He's 37 years old. It's just,
But Trump said it was a very harsh sentence,
oh,
considering how little money he stole.
oh, yeah. Well, stealing money apparently. Listen, Trump is a guy, obviously, he was convicted of 34 felonies, got elected president, and then the judge, I guess, decided that even though he was convicted, because he was elected president, we're not going to enforce anything. So he just kind of set it all aside.
Right.
It's just amazing to me that these things can happen. It's just very disturbing. All right, Bill.
Yes, it is very, very disturbing. And I don't see where it's going to end. But go ahead. We're moving on.
Yeah, I was saying that why don't we take a break and then in the next segment, I think we can talk about um, our governor, JB Pritzker, winning $1.4 million in Las Vegas, which to me is like, okay, there's something wrong with that. We talked about George Santos, but we can talk about the Ukraine war and Tomahawk missiles. Should we give Zelensky the Tomahawk missiles? And then we could end it with this phrase that I call political relativity, where the lesser of two evils are the choice of voters. You get the choice between Sean Casten, the Democrat, and Nikki Conforti, the Republican. Now, they're both nice people, don't get me wrong, but neither of them is a good leader. And Sean Casten is not a great Democrat, I don't think, in Congress. And Nikki Conforti, instead of bringing the community together, is pandering to the worst elements of a broken Republican Party in Illinois. So, why don't we take a break? And when we come back, we'll talk about some more of these issues.
All right.
All right, we'll be right back right after these messages here at Two Guys on Politics at twoguysonpolitics.com. And welcome back to Two Guys on Politics. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics, as Ray just mentioned. And I think the first thing we're going to talk about now is the great governor of the state of Illinois, the man standing up to President Trump every minute of the day when he's not at the gambling table in Las Vegas, winning $1.5 million. It's a good image for our governor, isn't it?
Yeah, and here's what bothers me about the story. This 1.4 million that he won was won in his 2024 taxes, not
Okay.
this year. This was from last year that he filed in his taxes. And we didn't hear about it until his taxes, somehow it got leaked to the media. And I think it was leaked because the Republicans hate him so much, and he's become the foil, the Antichrist to the Antichrist Trump. Trump and Pritzker. Trump has created Pritzker and elevated him in this war. And I think Pritzker sees it, in his war with Trump, that it's going to elevate him above all the other political people that were on his level in Illinois, and it will fuel his ambition to become president, assuming that Trump doesn't figure out a way to stay in office more than 4 years. Assuming that Trump serves one last term, Pritzker believes that he would be a good candidate. I never believed that, but I have to say that in the last few months, he sounded better. His rhetoric is better. And it's given Pritzker a new life. He's not the same lousy governor who is the head of the 48th worst state in the union. Instead, he's like the clear voice of reason in the battle with Trump. It's an amazing transformation. And then we hear that he won this multi-billionaire governor wins $1.4 million playing blackjack in Las Vegas. Do you know how much you would have to bet to win $1.4 million? You'd
I'm
have to
not a
bet.
gambler. I'm sorry. I don't know.
I listen, I don't I'm not a big gambler myself, but I know that blackjack is the place where you can actually win money in a casino better than the slots, better than the roulette wheel, better than the crap table. If you play blackjack by the basic rules, you can actually make a little bit of money and not lose money and enjoy the game a little bit, which is the only reason why I might gamble a little bit to enjoy the game. But to win $1.4 million, you would have had to have bet cumulatively probably over $1 million. And that worries me that our governor, would gamble at that level. That concerns me a little bit. Does that concern you
Well,
at all that he's a gambler?
listen, here is one of the richest men, not only in America, but in the world. Okay. I mean, he admits it. Everybody knows it. He's the governor of the state of Illinois. What is he doing in Las Vegas?
Yes.
playing blackjack.
Right.
Doesn't he realize that that's a terrible image for a governor of a state that is continually on the brink of bankruptcy
Yeah.
and where the largest city in his state is frankly bankrupt? All right. That is no place for him to ever be found whatsoever. And I'm sure that the only reason that we know about it is because, as governor of the state of Illinois, he probably has to reveal his tax returns. Now, I mean, I could never support a man who shows so little regard for the position he holds as governor of Illinois. And don't tell me, well, he has to enjoy himself. There's many other ways he can enjoy himself without going out and playing blackjack in Las Vegas, Nevada. Okay. I mean, I'm really appalled by this. Now, I don't think that there's anybody that's going to be able to beat him, quite frankly, because as you mentioned earlier, the Republican Party really no longer is a party in this
Right.
state. It's in
Yeah.
worse than shambles.
And in a state that's in shambles and many levels. There's some things
Yes.
that we're doing well in. There's some areas that we're not doing well in, and it's disconcerting because it's our state has so many problems, and Governor Pritzker isn't addressing it. Now, gambling, I think, is the a hobby of two kinds of individuals. One is the worst kind, who's a degenerate and they just will risk everything and they don't care about everything around them. You'll gamble everything away. Degenerate gamblers are the worst. And then there's also people who feel that they're economically oppressed. They're not degenerate gamblers, but they're looking at the lottery and gambling as a way out of not making enough money in a bad economy. So during a bad economy, it's amazing that in a bad economy where people are having trouble with money, they will take money and risk it to gamble in the hopes that they're going to make money. I hate the lottery. I think the lottery is the worst thing that people can do. And gambling, I may go if I go for a business trip to meet some of the newspaper editors in Las Vegas. I may gamble a little bit of money, but it's not something that I really, I go there thinking, hey, I'm going to make a lot of money. I go there thinking, okay, I'm going to set a $200 limit. If I lose it, that's it. If I play for a while with $200, I'll enjoy it. And I'm spending money for an enjoyment. But gambling is not a good image. And for the governor to be gambling, that bothers me a little bit. And
Well,
especially reckless because he has the money while the rest of us don't.
well, I am anti-gambling. I realize that my being anti-gambling, frankly, is over the top. Okay. But I will say this, there are people who gamble strictly for the entertainment value and the
Right,
enjoyment that they get out of it. They start out with a limit. They're going to spend $200,
right,
$300 max. They're going there for enjoyment. They're going there with their friends to have a good time. They'd like to win, but they don't really mind losing because that's not why they're going. They're going for the camaraderie,
right.
the somewhat excitement that they have. And you will find a lot of, I have to tell you this, on the rare occasions that I have been in casinos, I have noticed a lot of single women. In many cases, they were married for many years, and their husband passed away. And they're looking for some kind of companionship. So they go with some of their girlfriends, and it seems to help them out considerably. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Overall, I do have a problem, though, with gambling because it is so readily available now. And there are so many people that seem to be addicted to it that we're winding up with more and more people in poverty because of gambling than we've ever had before. And I think that's a tragedy. And I think that the government should start learning to live without gambling receipts because it seems like they always get the short end anyway. It seems like the owners of the casinos always wind up making the most money.
Yeah, if obviously the government's turned to gambling. We've seen that here in Illinois, outside of Chicago in the suburbs. They put slot machines in all these bars. You go into a bar, they have a separate section where they have up to four or five slot machines. People are always there morning, noon, and night, pouring money into those slot machines. They win a little bit. Maybe they have fun, but these are not, this isn't at a time and with people that it just seems like they're on the edge and they're having problems with money and the economy. And to be throwing away the money seems to be a horrible way to find enjoyment, wasting the money that is causing the problems, in your life that you just don't have the money to pay the bills. It just
Nope.
seems like the government is kind of, fueling this uh, corruption of our economic morality. And that really kind of bothers me. I'm
That's a
against
very good
gambling.
point.
Yeah, and it's widespread. It's like gambling. Oh yeah, let's take advantage of this addiction that people have so we can, raise taxes. Meanwhile, they still raise taxes. They say, "Oh, let's turn to gambling to replace not raise this tax." That's not what they're doing. They turn to gambling to raise money as a tax. And then they still go ahead and increase the taxes, as we've seen. We talked about last week all the taxes that have been increased in Illinois on gasoline, on utilities, on fees. I was in the store the other day, and I love Diet Pop. And I remember a number of years ago, there was a fight over whether they should impose a tax on pop that Tony Preckwinkle wanted to
Oh,
impose.
yes.
Do you remember that?
Oh,
And
I
it was going
remember
to
it well.
raise the cost of pop to $1.20. And everybody went berserk. They didn't want it and they blocked it. She put it in and then removed it. It was just a big controversy. But the cost of a bottle of Diet Pop now is 2.79 from $1.20. That's $1.59 more than what it was. That's how our economy has changed in the past 4 years. How terrible it is. I,
Listen, I remember when you could buy a bottle of pop for 25 cents. Now, I know that's showing my age, but once upon a time, that was the case, Ray.
well, I
20
mean,
cents.
when costs go up at small increments, I can understand that, but we're seeing a surge in increases. We're seeing a surge in costs, and people and nobody is addressing that. Not the government, not the leaders. We got Governor Pritzker in Las Vegas gambling at the blackjack table. That's a horrible, he could be president one day. I don't know. Is he going to gamble our foreign affairs and our finances at the blackjack table of international relations?
Well, I think the guy we have does a lot of gambling, not necessarily at a blackjack table, but in many other ways, he does a lot of gambling.
Well, you mean the current president, right?
Yes, yes.
President Trump. Yeah. So that's the direction our politics is heading. That's disturbing to me. And we don't have any way to stop it. And I think that brings us to our final topic. Well, we have two topics. One is this Ukraine,
Yes.
and then the other one is the challenges facing the Republican Party in Illinois. But let's talk about Ukraine real quick. Zelensky was interviewed this yesterday, I think, and he said that President Trump didn't give him the authority, that he's not. He didn't say that he was going to sell Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. He didn't promise that, but that seems to be the direction that we're headed. Now, personally, I think instead of selling Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, we should be giving Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine to end the war. Because I don't think, all the saber rattling that Putin is doing, I don't think he really wants this war to go to that level. And he's using the rhetoric to try to scare us with nuclear bombs and nuclear weapons. But I saw how we gave billions to Israel to fight a people that really, I mean, and again, how I am on that. I'm not
Yes.
defending Hamas, but it just was reckless the range of the destruction. And then in Ukraine, we're forcing them to pay for what we give them. There's something wrong with this whole formula of who we support and who we don't support.
Well, as far as the Ukraine, first of all, if you go back about a week ago, maybe 10 days ago, Trump said that he was prepared to give Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine.
Right.
Okay. He was just checking our own stockpile to make sure we had enough left for ourselves, but he was going to give them to Ukraine. And then he got a call from his friend Putin. And he talked to Putin for 2.5 hours. And once again, Putin managed to snow him and says, let's get together in Budapest and we'll talk about ending this war. Okay, so as Trump has done in the past, he says, oh, we're not going to give him the Tomahawk missiles because I believe Putin wants peace.
Oh my
He
God.
wants to end the war. So I don't want to give him these kind of weapons. So we're going to meet, in a couple of weeks in good old Budapest. And I'll tell you, Trump will come out of there and say, we are on the brink of ending this war in
Right.
Ukraine. And then nothing will happen once again. I think what he should do at the present time, he should give the Tomahawk weapons to Ukraine and says to Ukraine, now you cannot use these weapons unless after I meet with Putin, if there is not a ceasefire in this war, in 2 weeks afterwards, go ahead and use those Tomahawk weapons.
Right.
That's
Use
the
it
way
as
he should
leverage.
do it.
Yeah, you use it as leverage.
Absolutely.
This inconsistency in policy has to be encouraging for Putin. Putin knows that he can stop something, he could initiate something anytime he wants simply by reaching out to Trump and play to Trump's ego. It's disturbing.
It certainly is disturbing. There's no question about that.
And this war has been going on. I don't know if I can tell you how long this war has been going on. Was it 3 years?
Well, I fly a Ukrainian flag outside my home, and I have since the third or fourth day of the war. And I now am on my third Ukrainian flag because I fly them every day, 24 hours a day, and they are so faded
Right.
because they've been
Right.
up for such a long period of time. I continually have to buy new ones. So this war has been going on a long time, Ray, a long, long time.
It's like my Palestinian flags. I've had to replace many of them over the years. All right. And the Ukraine, I'll tell you what, that's another area where I'm really concerned about that it's a tinderbox already in a terrible situation, and at any moment it could get worse. Something bad can happen. It's like an opportunity for bad things to happen that would then explode into a bigger world war. That concerns me too. And I don't know if we could handle here in the United States a civil war and a world war at the same time.
No,
That,
even us, the great power of this planet, I don't think we could handle that.
yeah, I don't think so either. And
And I don't
we
want to see it come to that. We have to somehow bring this country together. How we're going to do it, I really don't know, but we certainly have to bring it together. I'd like to bring up one other thing just
sure,
quickly.
sure.
The $20 billion that we have promised to, is it Argentina, I guess? Yeah. If the right guy gets elected. Now, do you think that we should be promising a
No,
$20 billion
billion.
bailout
No,
if the right guy gets elected?
no.
Would you say that we are trying to
That's
influence
bribery.
that election?
Yeah, that's bribery. And in the US, that would be illegal if we
Oh,
did in an
absolutely.
election.
Yes.
It's just the immorality that exists in our politics today is horrible. But I blame that on the fact that both of our Democratic and Republican parties are weak, disorganized, dysfunctional, and are turning to hyper rhetoric, antagonistic rhetoric in their arguments rather than seeking solutions. They're not seeking solutions because they're both in total disarray, the Democrats and the Republicans. I did a column this week about a race in the 6th congressional district where incumbent Sean Casten, a nice guy, he is a great guy, but I don't think he's done a lot as a congressman at all, is going to be challenged in next year by Nikki Conforti, a Republican. Again, she ran against him once and lost by that was a number 30,000 votes. And I consider that a landslide. Sean Casten has the base, but one of Nikki Conforti's problems as a Republican is that she's pandering to the most extreme voices in the Republican Party rather than trying to bring the Republican Party together to give her a solid foundation to challenge Casten. And I think if she did do that, if the Republicans would get their act together, they could take out a guy like Casten because Casten is not liked that much in the Democratic Party. I hear from Democrats all over that they don't think he's responsive, that they agree with him, and they wonder what has he done. And like I said, they're both nice people. This isn't personal, but I think Casten is going to win because Conforti is going to lose, not because Casten is a great candidate.
Well, I believe that congressional district, if you had a good Republican candidate, well financed, could very easily win that district. I believe that there are enough swing voters in that district that you could very easily elect a Republican, particularly against Sean Casten. Now,
Right.
Sean Casten, I don't know at all. He might be a wonderful fellow, but I'll tell you what he is. He does exactly what the Democratic leadership in Washington tells him to do. He doesn't represent, in my opinion, the people in the 3rd congressional district. He represents the Democratic National Party. And of course, I think that is a terrible mistake, but that's the way he likes to play the game. That's the way he wants to play the game. And I don't think he's helping out the people in the 3rd congressional
The
district.
6th district, the 6th district,
Pardon?
the 6th district, the 6th. They merged a large part of the 3rd district into the 6th district.
Oh, I thought it
Yeah.
was still the 3rd district.
Yeah, no, it's a 6th district.
Okay.
They keep changing the lines of congressional districts in Illinois, and they're talking about doing it again. By the way, they're talking
Yeah,
about
well,
merging
the
another
Democrats don't have enough seats in Illinois. Trump got what, 47% of the votes in Illinois in the last election, but there's only 3 Republican seats in Illinois.
Yeah,
But he had an awful good pen for the Democrats when they drew up the congressional districts.
yeah, the system is corrupt, but I agree with you. I think our Democratic leadership is terrible. I think that Casten has done a poor job of representing the people in his district, in the 6th district, and he could do a better job. And he could speak out against the failings of the Democratic leadership. I mean, the way we've seen Joe Manchin, the former senator, speak out. I'm getting through his book. I'm slowly getting through it. You're right.
I'm getting through his book also.
It's a slow read. It's not a very fast,
No,
exciting
it's
read,
not.
but it's informative. It is informative. Maybe we'll talk about it when we're both done with it.
Yeah, I would
But
like to talk about it, yes.
But I think that Nikki Conforti, she could beat him if she could get the Republican Party together. But the Republican Party in Illinois is totally dysfunctional. They have horrible leaders that are more about themselves than the Republican Party. And it's sad to see that. And she's getting sucked into that instead of being a leader. Neither Casten nor Conforti want to be leaders to bring their parties together, to strengthen the Democrats, to strengthen the Republicans. And I think that's the problem that we're seeing in an election. And for voters, that's horrible. We have a terrible choice next year in that district.
I really wish we could find more people in politics that were for America and not for the Democrats or the Republicans.
Right.
I see that as the problem. People forget that they really should be representing their constituents who want to see a strong America. Okay? They don't care about the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. In reality, they're forced to choose between them because that's the system that we have. But they want to see people vote the American way.
All right. On that note, we got to end it. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski, and this has been Two Guys on Politics. And let us know what you think of what we have to say. It's a free country, and we'd like to know what our listeners think.
All right, everybody. Bye bye. Thank you so much for listening at threeguysonpolitics.com, on YouTube, and on WNZK AM 690 radio in Detroit. Hopefully, we may expand this program into Chicagoland on radio. That's something we're looking into doing. And hopefully, we'll get that out there for you. Thank you so much for listening. Bye bye, everybody.